everybody? Welcome to the Crossover Talk Show. I'm your host, Travis Garrison, where we're talking sports and life. Got with me today a very special guest, my main man, Mike Creppy of Vindicated Sports. How you doing, sir?
Trav, what's good, bro? What's good? Glad to be here.
Now, I definitely appreciate your time, man. I know you got a lot going on. Like you said, the off season about to start up, with the agents and dealing with these players. So let's jump right into it. From Maryland, with the good counsel, right? With the good counsel, right?
Good counsel, yeah. Graduated from Blake High School, though, in Montgomery County.
Okay. Then went on to play college basketball. Now played professional basketball. So give us a little bit about your background and, your whole basketball background as far as your experience goes.
Yeah, from Silver Spring, Maryland. First, I was born in California, born in Pasadena, and family moved when I was 2. We were in Atlanta until I was about 7. I was 93. Then we moved to Silver Spring. Moved to Silver Spring in 93, and my parents have been there since then. So I was still playing ball in PG. I was playing for the Bowie Panthers and Bowie Ball Handlers, for those of you who might know those earlier AAU programs from back in the day. And then my dad just started his own team called the Silver Spring Wizards, where we had a lot of local guys. And, we coming from an affluent area, so we didn't need any sponsors. So, everybody kind of just pitched in. And we were able to play at all the big tournaments. So, play against Blue Devils, Tim Thomas players. We would go to tournaments at Nationals and in Hawaii and all those places, Atlanta Celtics. And then, so that's kind of how my basketball background started. I went to Newport Prep. For people who know about Newport back in the day, it was sort of like a Montrose Christian or Oak Hill, or one of those big time prep schools. A lot of players went to the NBA out of that school. I was in middle school at the time, but I got a taste of high school basketball early. I was able to play JV in 8th grade. So, anybody that knows the guys that played at that school, those are all serious basketball players. So
right.
It really prepared me for, what I was going to face. And, you from this area, if you make it out of this area in any capacity playing basketball, you have to be some type of good, because It's just so competitive. There's so much talent here. And, and it's so spread out. We're not even talking about Baltimore when we talk about the DMV, and they have the best hoopers in the world. So went to Newport, then went to Blake for 2 years. Then I went to Good Counsel for a year, just because I needed some recruitment. I was always self-aware. And I think that served me well in business outside of basketball right now, is that I was always one of those people that I never got comfortable, or I wasn't content where I was. And I was real with myself. So at Blake, I was 5'10". I was playing the post in 9th and 10th grade on varsity. And I just knew I wasn't going to play the post in college. I had a guard game. So I need to go somewhere where we had 6'7", 6'8", 6'10", 7-footers. So I transferred to the WCAC, which is where I thought I should have been before. But, DeMatha wanted me bad. So I almost was at DeMatha. But,
you should have came through, bro. What you mean?
Me and Mike Jones, we go way back. Like, I remember when he was a freshman coach, and he was recruiting me in 8th grade at Newport. But at the time, they wanted me to go to summer school, and my mom being an educator, she didn't take too kindly to that. So she was like, if you're that good, go to the public school, do your thing, and you can transfer once you're ready. And so that's what I did. 10th grade year, I had a really good year on varsity. Good counsel recruited me. They saw me in a playoff game. Then took my visit, had a workout with Coach McKenna, Tim McKenna, and it was a wrap after that. So I went there, had some colleges after me. And then I played Blue Devils that summer as well. DC Blue Devils. We had the #1 ranked team in the country. That year we had a lot of talent. We had Roy Hibbert, Ty Lawson, James Gist, Isaiah Swan, Peter Prowett, Brad Farrell, Marcus Ginyard. Everybody on our team went Division I. Like everybody. Loaded. Yeah, we were loaded. And so Brian Johnson, how could I forget Brian? Brian was the best player in our class at the time.
Right.
And, Brian's my guy too. But we were loaded, man. Cheyenne Moore, shout out my man Cheyenne Moore. All these guys, went to big time ACC, SEC schools. And then then after I finished at Blake, I had an offer from James Madison. I was getting ready to sign. The staff got fired, you know how that goes. So they brought in their own class. So I stopped my recruitment. And so, my mom, she taught at the collegiate level, English and public speaking, as well as at the high school level. She actually taught your boy, Chris McCray at Fairmont Heights. She was at Fairmont Heights for 20 years. I didn't know that. Yeah. My mom taught at Fairmont Heights for 20 years. So I remember begging her to go there, but, she wasn't having it.
I already know.
because film heights was really good back then, like that
Right,
that
right.
04, 03, 04 era. But yeah, so she had some relationships with some deans at different schools. So she knew the dean at Coppin State, and he got me an interview with the coach up there. So I went up there, had my film. They liked it, so they brought me on for that year. It was a good and bad experience. It was a good experience because we had the #1 non-conference schedule in the country.
Right.
And so I was able to see like high level Division I basketball. We played Kentucky first game of the season, 20,000 fans, opening night of Up Arena. So, that was eye opening. And then we played Andrew Bogut when he was in college.
Right.
It was just crazy just to see that up close and personal. But the guys on the team weren't as serious as me. I've been a pro long before I got the check.
Right.
That's something I always tell these players. Like, you can't wait until you get paid to
Right.
become a pro. Like, my approach to basketball was professional for a long time.
Right.
I used to get clowned in high school for wearing ankle weights to school under my sweats. Like, I had my strength shoes on walking to the mall.
Right.
Like the jump soles for those who don't know what strength shoes are.
Right.
But I was serious, and so when I got there, it honestly felt like the 13th grade to me. I'm like, man, this ain't where I'm supposed to be. But I didn't get caught up in, oh, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm better than this. So let me just big time it. No, I got in the gym. I stayed in the gym. I kept my work ethic going. And sophomore year, I redshirted. Then I transferred to UC Riverside for my junior and senior year. I had another year, but I graduated early. But yeah, I transferred out to UC Riverside the fall of 2006.
Yeah.
Then, like, after first practice, I played great. I was like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm at a solid conference. Coaches love me. They're telling me where I'm going to fit in the offense. My parents were still in town. And then, like, after we had a second practice that night, I went out bowling with some of my roommates. I just moved into my apartment.
Yeah.
And then we just went out for a night, and then I was in a fatal car accident. Like, I was a passenger in the car. The car flipped over 6 times. My teammate, who was my roommate, died at the scene. Another girl, she was under the car when it finished flipping. She died the next day. Yeah, so, now I separated my right shoulder, shoulder, and I broke my right foot. But, it was just something that I never thought would happen, but it happened. So,
right.
Of course, I was like, man, I want to go home. I'm not trying to be out here. Like,
right.
But then once I got over that, it was like, all right, like, you can't play. Like, let's get to work. Like, so I would play 2K, but I was trying to play as if I'm in a real game. Trying to simulate.
Right.
We both know you can't simulate basketball.
Absolutely. Right.
But, that was what I had to do to keep my mind sharp and focus on what I needed to focus. So, I got even more focused after that. Because it was like, all right, I got a second chance at life. I got a second chance at basketball. Right. So let's see what God has for me through this game. And,
absolutely.
I didn't get back healthy until conference play my senior year. That's when I got back in the rotation. So, from there, it became an uphill battle for me to start my pro career. But it was a blessing in disguise, the biggest blessing in disguise, because of what I'm doing now. And I'm sure we're going to get to that in a second. But yeah, so obviously my stats weren't that great because I didn't play. I had injuries. Yeah. And you and I both know, being that we played overseas, they don't care about any of the ancillary things that happen in your life. They want to know 2 things. Can you produce? Can you do this job?
Absolutely.
And that's it. They look at your stats, they look at your profile, and that's how they assess you and judge you. There's because I have a lot of players, they message me and they say, well, I am a 20-point per game scorer, but this happened, that happened, that happened. Yeah. And it's like, they don't care. And there's no nice way of me saying that. Like, they just don't care, because if I try to dance around it, I'll be doing you a disservice. So I understood that fully, what I was up against. Right. So had to do my own game film. I learned how to do my own game film. Of course, I'm pretty tech savvy, but I had to learn how to use Final Cut Pro, like anything at my disposal. Back then, you had to download an app to screen record. Now everything comes with a screen record on the phones and everything, but I had to download an app for screen record. There's so much stuff that I did, I probably forgot half the stuff. Just because it was like every step I was just like, this is what I need to do to get here. Okay, cool. So I met a guy, I guess I was introduced to him. I can't remember how I got introduced to him. A guy named Noam Fisherman. He has some contacts in the UK and in England, in Ireland and England. And maybe 3 weeks prior to meeting him, I had just received notice that I could get a British passport. And at the time, England was a part of the EU. So for those of you who don't know why that's important, I don't count as an import. And every country internationally, every FIBA market, they have a quota of how many imports or Americans are allowed, or imports or people, non-national players that are allowed on each team.
Right.
So with me, they're going to be getting an American player, but I don't go against the quota. So it's not as big as it was 10 years ago, but back then it was almost like gold.
Exactly.
And so once I got that, Noam set me up with the Belfast Stars of the Irish Super League. And they had their American already. They can only have one American in their league, but they allowed me to come and practice to stay in shape and to be in Europe so I could set up other workouts with other leagues.
Right.
And that, like, in hindsight, was invaluable because I was able to see what a European practice was like, just that pace and things like that. And, just on the surface, I was able to practice. You know, instead of just being in the gym by myself doing drills, I was able to compete against guys and be adjusted to that time zone. So, after I was out there, Pops gave me 3 months worth of money. He was like, yo, make this work. If you don't come back, go to law school. My dad's a federal judge. And so yeah, I heard the law school speech and everything. But I was like, I told him straight up, like, if this basketball thing don't work out, I'm under a bridge on Georgia Avenue. Of course, I'm being facetious and everything, but that was my mindset,
Absolutely.
I had to put myself in that mindset. So I got a one-way ticket. I was like, look, I ain't coming back. I had a workout with 3 teams. So while I was there, Noam told me just to hit up these teams. They might be interested in bringing you in. So it's the Worcester Wolves. It was what is now called the Surrey Heat, and the Leicester Riders. Leicester Riders actually plays Euro Cup now, so they're a really good organization. But Worcester was my first workout. So I left Ireland. I packed all my stuff up. I told my mom, look, I'm buying a one-way flight out there. I'm not coming back. Of course, she'd be prudent, like, hey, you should buy a round trip ticket just in case you got to come back.
Right.
I knew all I needed to do was be in front of the right people because of the work I put in.
Right.
And then your faith comes in, and look, it's easy to say you got faith, but now you got to put it into work.
Exactly.
And if you believe God has it for you, then you gotta show it.
Right.
So I went out there, tired, man. Like, I had to take a plane and a train. Coach picked me up from the train station. I flew into Heathrow, which is in London, and I took a train from London to Worcester. Picked me up, dropped my stuff off at the team house, which I didn't know I was going to be sharing a house with 5 different teammates, but that's what it was. They had just released a player, so he was still in the room that was going to be my room.
Wow. So
I had to sleep on the air mattress in the living room, just for the 2 weeks while they got him out the house. But I wasn't tripping, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I set up shop there, and my vision was bigger. Like, I knew I needed to play in a first division league that was going to give me respect in the FIBA market. And so I had a practice with them that same afternoon. As soon as I dropped my stuff off, we went to the gym, had a one-on-one practice with the coach. That night, I had a practice with the team. Then the next day, I had a practice with the team, and then they offered me a contract after that. And so that was, I didn't even take my other workouts because I was just, look, I'm not in a position to gamble.
Right.
It took me so long to get here. Like, the fact that I'm even here was a blessing. So, I took it, and it was actually my first year playing full-time point guard, which is wild. Like, I never played point guard a day in my life. And I was never comfortable playing a point guard, if I'm going to be honest.
Right.
But I had an agent, I was hitting up hundreds of agents. So while I was waiting for the opportunity to go to Ireland, I'll take my laptop to the gym with me, because that grind, emailing the coaches and trying to get responses from them, not knowing if they even check their emails, if it's even a legit email.
Right.
I was sending hundreds, maybe thousands. Like, I would go work out and I'll go right to the side while I was cooling down, send out emails.
Right.
And I had an agent tell me, if you really want to be successful, you have to be a big point instead of an undersized 2. So I started, really watching Chris Paul, Chauncey Billups, Andre Miller, guys that were bigger point guards, that could score as well as distribute. And I started just studying their pace, studying their reads. And one thing I learned was that they use their ability to score to draw the defense, because the defense reacts to that energy. Absolutely. And it became easy to make the reads after that, because I was a natural scorer. Like, I always looked to score anyway. Right. So all I have to do is just slow down now. So when I'm going to score, if 2 guys come, now I'm just making the reads,
Right.
And, studying pick and roll and those reads and stuff like that. Defensively, I didn't have an issue. I was going to pick up full court. I never had a problem with energy and effort. So I always knew that if I played bad, I could always make some plays through energy and effort.
Absolutely.
So that first season, I ended up finishing top 10 in assists. There's actually a clip we played Newcastle Eagles on Sky Sports where the commentator is saying, you know, look like I've been playing the position my whole life. And I always laugh when I hear that because they didn't know that was my first year ever playing point guard.
Right.
But that was the amount of study and diligence that I did. So, you know, after that, you know, of course, I had all the agents hitting me up. Now they saw that I played, I had good stats, and I have a European passport. Man, I had so many. Nobody wanted to sign me before. You know?
Right.
And then after that, so I went to Denmark's top league. I ended up tearing my patella tendon in Denmark during the playoffs. So I went to actually 4th Division Germany just to play rehab. And after that, you know, I played there and word got around that I was healthy and I was playing well down there. And then that's when I went to Greece during Christmas. And that was when we played together.
Right.
We both got there at the same time with Olympiacos in Athens. And and then after that, you know, once you got that on your resume, then it was, you know, I went back to the UK. I can negotiate better money. Because they actually have money in the UK. They just pick and choose when they want to spend it.
Right.
And so, you know, it's actually a market that I think is emerging that I think a lot of players would want to go to, similar to Australia, if they really put the money into basketball, which I think they will soon.
Right.
Went to UK, went to Czech Republic, went to Portugal. No, went to Czech Republic, went back to the UK to Manchester. Manchester Giants had a good deal there. Then I went to Portugal. Then I went out to China. And China actually was a pivotal moment in this basketball journey because I was out there for 2 years straight. Like I lived out there, off season, during season, like, and it gave me time to think. Right. So during my year in the Czech Republic, I really started to think about, you know, I only have one stream of income. Like it hit me like a ton of bricks that, man, I only have one stream of income.
Right.
I was watching an NBA game. I'm like, man, the last guy on the bench had 6 or 7 other streams of income. And I'm like, man, I need to make something shake. Like I need to figure something out.
Right.
So, you know, the low hanging fruit and the easy ones that the shiny coin is, real estate investment or stock market investment. Right. But nobody's talking about the intricacies of these industries that you need to know to be successful in them.
Right.
And for me, I think one of my superpowers is I'm not afraid. I'm real with myself, and I'm not afraid to say what I don't know.
Right.
So a lot of people are afraid to say what they don't know in fear of looking inferior or something like that. I'm like, look, I work too hard for this money. Like, I'm better off going to Maryland Live and gambling at the crap table than investing in real estate with the lack of knowledge that I have in the industry.
Right.
So of course, you know, it didn't click right away, but I'm just like, all right, so what is it that I know? What is it that I like to do? Well, I know overseas basketball. I've been in it for 6 years at this point. So what does the industry need? So I started thinking about it, talked to some friends, and one thing that clicked with me was that it was information.
Right.
So I realized like nobody told us what to expect when we went overseas.
Right.
Like even to this day, you know, I have my own podcast, and when we interview these guests, and some of them come from big time schools, some of them come from the G League, NBA, and they're like, we didn't know what to expect when we went overseas. Right. We just going off what our agents tell us.
Right.
So like I remember sitting down with my friends, like one of my boys, Fowler and Campbell, who played at George Mason during the Final Four run, long-time pro, all met in the Maryland, DC area. And I remember at his house vividly. We're at his house, just sitting on the couch, and I'm like, yo, why can't we act? All these owners that we play for, they have money, which is why they own a team. They all have great companies. Why can't we ask for equity in their company within our contract? So I'm thinking outside the box even then. Of course, like nobody went for it, but that was where my mindset was. Just thinking like, how far can we leverage this basketball?
Right. Thanks.
And so, because it just made sense to me. I'm like, we playing for the team, and one thing that I learned was that, you know, for a lot of these owners, it takes a lot for you to get a meeting with them. We see them every day or every week because we play for their team. Like we have a front seat in the audience with them at all times, and we have a more relaxed relationship, so we can talk business and then not feel like business.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that was what my mindset was. So going out to China, man, I really started to formulate, okay, I want to get this information out. So prior to me leaving that summer, I started going to my alma mater, UC Riverside. I actually went up to University of Maryland. I started talking to players, and it became too tedious because I'm still training, I'm still playing myself. So I'm like, all right, how can I disseminate this information to the masses? So I'm like, let me put it in a book. It was in outline format at one point. So I just put it into a book. You know, I hit up a couple boys that I knew that had authored books. Asked them who published the book, what was that process like? And so my downtime in China, out of sight, out of mind, people weren't hitting me up, and it's a different time zone. It's literally flipping AM and PM. It's a 12-hour time difference. So it gave me time to really think. Like, nobody was hitting me up, nobody was bothering me. And I really got to lock in and write this book and format it the way I wanted to. And so like being in China, then just basketball wise in China is just an unbelievable place to be. Like, they're so passionate about basketball. And me being a basketball junkie, it was like a dream. It was like a dream because you can go to any open court, you can go to any park and it's just full, you can get a run. And, of course, they love Americans over there.
Right.
Like, especially if you try to embrace their culture. So I started learning the language. I learned basketball terms. And it helped that I lived in Shanghai for the first year and a half. Shanghai is similar to New York or LA or London. But then my second stint, I lived in Nanjing, which is maybe an hour outside of Shanghai. It's similar to Shanghai. You can find the same things, but it's kind of on a lesser scale. So you get more Chinese culture there, and it's not as westernized. But I love China, man. I loved it. I still talk to people out there. Yeah, man. Like, the business wise, like, you can do so much business and leverage so much through basketball out there. Yeah. So, like, I was doing commercials. I'm teaching English. Like, I'm doing, like, when I first got out there, I was on the tour with Dame Lillard for his Adidas, for his Dame Force. So that's what really brought me out there. And then I played NBL. Then they have all of these tournaments out there that you can play in the off season, and it's great money. And then I had a work visa. So being that I had a work visa, I was able to play in, like, these corporate games. So they can basically pay me, like, under the tax law over there. So you can make way more money. And it's really just a fascinating place. And I think everybody should go to China at least once, because it's like a different world. But yeah, so I formatted I did the book out there, and it actually put me in a different place doing business because they respected me as more than a basketball player out there. Chinese culture is very big on education. So once these business people that I'm playing basketball with knew that I had written a book, they looked at me different. I was able to have different conversations. So instead of me just playing in a tournament, they're asking me to organize the tournament. And that's separated. So all the guys that I was playing with, maybe a year ago, I can say, hey, I have this tournament. We want you guys to come. I'm negotiating the budgets. I'm doing all this stuff. And that's where the real money is in the organization and behind the scenes. And so, fast forward, and I played out there. And then obviously I came back, believe it or not, right before the pandemic. So I was going to still be there. I still have stuff there. I don't know what they've done with it, but it's still out there. I'll just come back just because I needed a break. And I came back, and then, like, November turned into December turned into January. And I was like, man, I want to start setting up living in LA because that's where I wanted to be. And once I was out there, that's when the pandemic hit. And so I was just like, well, we just gonna be here. So then I just started locking in on the business, and then I started Vindicated Sports. I had the LLC and stuff, maybe 2018. But I didn't really know what I wanted it to be. I knew I wanted to give advice and consult these players, but just from a business standpoint, I didn't know exactly how I wanted to format it. So, I started seeing, a lot of these players, they're going on these tours and going to camps, and there were no coaches there, and they were getting scammed out of this stuff. So I started a book tour. I would come back in the summertime from China, and I would go to different places. I went to camps in Vegas during NBA Summer League. I would go out to Valencia, Spain. I went to England. Like, I was going everywhere with this book. Touring the book. And, I'm talking to the players. And one thing I learned was that these players that are fringe players or players that people might overlook and not think they can be pros, they have a desire to play too. Why shouldn't they have a quality opportunity? So that became my target demographic. I started targeting, not the players that were like me coming out of school, that had the ability to play, but maybe their profile doesn't reflect the type of player they are talent-wise. And there are thousands of those players. So that became my target audience. So I started organizing events for those type of players, and I have direct contacts. And that's another thing that business-wise is a superpower of mine, is that I have direct contacts with teams all over the world. And in this business, if you're trying to help players get jobs, if you don't have direct contacts, you're basically inefficient. Yeah, you're inefficient at your job. So when I hear about these agents that don't have direct contacts and they're going through third parties and they know somebody, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You know, why can't you pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, I have a player, take a look, or
Right.
send an email, send a WhatsApp message. So, you know, so knowing all of that, you know, I created the event as if I was attending
Right.
all of these events that I've done, and we've been very successful. We've had over 20 players signed since March of 2021.
Wow.
Men and women. So we don't just do the men, we do women too. And that was all during COVID. So now that COVID is a little more relaxed and we're kind of learning to deal with it, now I'm starting to go back to Europe and hopefully Asia once it reopens, and just provide more opportunities for these players.
Right. Man, that's dope, man. That's a heck of a story, man. Hope you all out there, y'all got that. First of all, the experience, and then like you said, man, what you said was interesting in regards to you were focusing on players that was like you.
Yeah.
And you know how God works, man. We go through certain things for certain reasons. Now, because you went through that experience, now you can relate to those players because you say, hey, I was in y'all position before. I know what I had to do. If you do X, Y, and Z, or you could just tell me your story like you told everybody else in the sense of, look, this was a lot of stuff you told me I didn't even know either. But this was my journey, and look what happened to me. This same thing happened to you guys. You know what I mean? So and it showed. You told me you had 20 players that get signed, men and women.
Like directly through us. You know, it's not like, oh, my partner did. Like, no, this was like directly through our pipeline. And so, you know how it is, man. Like, you know, we go through things so we can comfort others that go through the same thing. It says it in the Bible. You know,
absolutely.
I'm a firm believer in that. And, you know, I love it, man. I love the space that I'm in. I love like seeing like once the player gets signed and seeing just the outpouring of support and love they get on IG, on social media, you know, and, you know, just knowing that, you know, I was a part of that.
Wow.
And just how God is using you, man. Like it's fulfilling, man. Forget the business side. It's like it never gets old.
Right.
Yeah, it never gets old.
Man, that's great, man. What you're doing is definitely a ministry within itself, man. But because like you said, everybody is looking for the big name players. Everybody's looking for a guy that they can make a lot of money off. Whereas you're going for guys that have the skill, have the ability, but it just was overlooked. So you find those guys, you basically give them that platform or putting them in that spotlight where their true talents can shine regardless of their resume at the time. You know what I mean? Or the school they went to.
It's work, man. It's actually hard work because even these people that I have great relationships with, they're still the way they recruit is conventional. So they look at it like, come on, Mike, like, come on. Like, I know we like you, Mike. You know, we've always done good business, but this player averaged 2 points. I'm like, no, look beyond that. Like look at that. Matter of fact, we're coming in 2 months. We're gonna play some games. We want you there. And I'm gonna show you this player. So like one of the like staples, like we have two. So the two people that I think are the pillars of what I do are Justin Pierce and Byron Hawkins. So Byron Hawkins, for people who might be from the DMV area, he played at Good Counsel, played at Capital Christian, I believe that name is the school. Capital Christian. Then he went on to play at Murray State, Towson, and Bryant University, respectively. But Byron took about 2 years off. So, you know, when you're presenting your profile to these teams, if they see gaps in your resume, it's almost a major red flag to them. Right. So Byron came on a tour to Brazil. Long story short, he played well. He got asked to stay. He signed with the team. And that team wasn't projected to do anything in the league. He ended up being the MVP of the league 5 times during the season, and it took him to the championship. He had 33 points in the Final Four to take him to the championship with a broken finger. Wow. And so, like, you know, this is a team that never would have signed him had he not come on a trip. And then, you know, on a bigger level, we had a player, Justin Pierce, who in the LA Times article that was written about me and my company, his story is featured on there as well. So Justin is 30 years old. Justin played at Division III. Justin never played overseas. Well, technically he played in Costa Rica, but it wasn't a FIBA certified league, but it was only for a month. And he was like, I knew he could play. He lived in LA at the time. I work out with him every day. Right. And I'm playing with him. I'm like, man, this dude can hoop. Like he's a flat out bucket. He can score 6'4", can flat out score. And so he came on a couple of trips. He came to my 2020 showcase. He got better every time. Came on my Dominican Republic tour in 2021, and then he came to the Uruguay tour in September of 2021. And so you played in Uruguay, like know the type of players that they like to recruit. They like players with resumes, guys that fringe NBA guys that played at a high level college.
Mm-hmm.
So they take a lot of former NBA players. So and it was the LUB, the top league.
Right.
So we went out there. We played. He got access. He stayed and he worked out for a team for a week. They decided to sign him. He ended up being top 10 in scoring, right under Quincy Miller, who played at Baylor, played in the NBA for the Nuggets and Kings. And this is like he never would have gotten looked had he not come up.
Yeah.
You know, and so like when I see stuff like that, that's what I created this for, is to give those type of players out. Because you and I both know guys that have the resumes and guys that don't have the resume, like they're guys that can play, they just might not have the resume for whatever reason.
Right.
That's not an indictment on them as a player. So, you know, my thing is like I'm a firm believer in that, because I was that. Like if you look at my college stats and the way I play, like it's two different people.
Right.
And so I'm fighting for them for that. And, you know, but it's hard to kind of convince the market that, oh, like this is real. I'm like, look at what we're doing. Like we're actually doing the work. We're getting guys and girls who never would have gotten looks in these markets. We're getting them in the league and they're playing. And not only are they playing, they're playing well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now that's great what you're doing, man. I know it's showing already that it's benefiting so many people, so many individuals in their lives and their careers. And this is like it's bigger than from the outside looking in. Everything that you're doing, man, and what you're doing for these players is huge, man. And then like you're saying, you're giving opportunities to individuals that would never have gotten this opportunity, man. So I definitely commend you on that. How can people find your book?
Oh, it's on Amazon and an Apple bookstore. It's called Vindicated Sports, the guideline to a successful basketball career overseas. So if you just type in Vindicated Sports, it'll come up. Yeah, it's on all those platforms. You can order them paperback. You can download the digital copy on Apple. And then, you know, of course, I have my link tree on my Instagram page and my Facebook business page, Vindicated_sports.
Absolutely, man. That's great. And so I know you guys getting ready for the off season or tour time. So what you have coming up?
Yeah, we're going to our first European tour in June. We're going to Denmark, where I played my second year. I have a lot of really good relationships there. That was probably my favorite year, just in terms of like I felt at home out there. They made me really feel at home. So we're going out there. We're going to Puerto Rico for their top league, the BSNF for the women in July. And then September, we're going back to Brazil and Argentina for 2 weeks. So yeah, so that's the schedule right now. But yeah, like that's just like, honestly, people don't believe it, but I don't really make a profit from these trips because I price it at a rate that I want the place to come and I don't want money to stop them. So people ask, how do you make money through your business? And a lot of it is through retainers. I have a lot of agents. And lawyers that want to get into sports agency that want to build out their sports agency and they want to be overseas agents.
Right.
And it's not, and so they Google me. They Google overseas basketball, and because I've been featured in the LA Times. I've been featured in ESPN through the Handscape. The algorithm shoots my name up to the top of the list. So when you type in overseas basketball, Vindicated Sports, and my Creppy come up. So that's when, they look me up, they find my LinkedIn, they email me. Just do that. And so, yeah, and then now, we're getting to the film space too. So we're going to be putting out more like official content regarding these trips that we're doing. So, it's just a lot, man, but I love it. I love the space, and I'm still playing. Like I just got finished hooping at First Baptist Church in Glen Arden, with some of the pro guys and some of the high level college guys that are in town. So I might actually go play in England, and I brought that up because my ability to play gets me into a lot of rooms, right? And I get to meet a lot of players. I get to meet a lot of agents and coaches in an organic way. Right. So like when I go up to the players, I just finished working out with them. I just got finished hooping with them. Now I'm not trying to sell them anything. They just saw me play. They saw what I'm about. And then somebody will say, hey, you need to go talk to him. Right. And then, they were like, who, the guy I was just hooping with? They were like, yeah, like he does X, Y, and Z overseas. Yeah. And so I like that approach as opposed to me coming in there and just like a backpack with a badge on and hey, this is who I am, here's my business card. Right. And it seems kind of like, like curated, like it's not authentic. Right. So, that's why it's easy for players to trust me because, I see these people doing all the bad business in this space and it's easy. I can see it. Like you can easily get caught up in, justifying why you're taking these players' money.
Well,
Well,
absolutely.
we didn't guarantee them a contract. We just guaranteed an opportunity. But you didn't
Right.
do everything in your power to make it a real opportunity. And
Absolutely.
that's the one thing I saw. You didn't go above and beyond to try to get as many coaches and GMs in the gym that are actively scouting. That's the
Right.
biggest thing. They might get somebody in the gym, but they might already have their players.
Right.
You know, and so I'm
Yeah.
emphatic about that. I asked them multiple times, look, are you guys actively recruiting? Are you actively scouting what positions? If so, like send me a video too so I can post it on my social media so my players can
Right.
see like, yo, this is who you guys are gonna be playing in front of. So I go
Right.
above and beyond because I know how to talk to the players. I could be one of the biggest scammers out here because
Right.
I'm them, you know?
Right.
Like it's
Absolutely.
so easy for them to trust me. But
Right.
with that being said, I understand my responsibility with that. And
Absolutely.
I don't take like I will never jeopardize that for any amount of money.
Absolutely. So how can if a player wants to get enough
Mhm.
opportunity, how can they reach out to you in regards to that? Like how can they, get an opportunity? How can they get an opportunity with you or what you're doing?
Yeah, you just go to the Vindicated Instagram page, Vindicated_sports, and my email's on there, my link tree's on there, and they can even just DM me like, "Hey, I need full name and your college or pro highlights." Because I don't just take players just because they
Right.
want to pay. I have to make sure that they're the caliber of players that the teams want to see. Because if I go
Absolutely.
over there with a whack group of players, then they're gonna look at me like,
Absolutely. That makes sense.
and we won't bring you back. So, you know, I go through, I vet them, and I turn away a lot more business than I get just because I need to make sure these players are players that I think can kind of compete for a job in this highly
Absolutely.
competitive market.
Absolutely. Nah, man, I just want to commend you from a former player and then just from a person that love helping other people, man, and giving people that individuals that platform. What you're doing is huge, bro. And I know it's gonna get bigger because I know you and I know how you love
Yeah.
basketball and I know kind of character you have, man, and it's shown with everything that you have going on. So I definitely want to commend you and applaud you, man. And I know only the bigger and better is coming for sure.
Yeah, no, that means a lot coming for you, man. You know, we used to look up to you. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you were that guy, man, for us. You know, you're a couple years older than me, man. Like at the Marathon, McDonald's All American. Like I just used to always hear your name. Then I played against you. You know, I was in a role player role as the counsel, but you know, I remember seeing you play and just how you went about. Like you were always at the hybrid four. And then like just being teammates with you, you know, that year in Greece, you know, that was just a cool experience, man. Just
Absolutely.
you know, because you know, you get to see like you hear about people that you played against and you hear about in the media, but then actually being around them for the better part of 3 or 4 months, it's like, yo, this dude's a real good guy.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like he's just a good guy outside of basketball. He's somebody that, I just want to be cool with. You
Nah,
know,
I
so
appreciate. Now, I appreciate that, bro. Real talk, man. I
yeah,
definitely appreciate you, man. I've been watching, man, everything that you got going on, even from your work. I said, dang, Mike's still out there getting it in. I
yeah,
thought he was doing the
yeah.
whole management thing, man. He started it. He going for a contract. I said,
You got to keep people on their toes, man. Like,
hey,
and
bro.
look, when I was out in China, it's funny because people really didn't know what I was doing in China. At one minute they see me doing a camp with Adidas, the next minute I'm playing, the next minute I'm on a tour in Vegas or I'm in Spain. And like I like that though. You know, I like
Hey,
that. People not getting a beat on you.
hey, nah, that's what's up, man. Like I said, man, you're living out what you're talking about and what you're trying to do, man. Like you said, it's one thing to come in the gym, never I don't know what you got going on. Then there's another thing where you actually out there and you involved and you just like those guys. Like you said, man, they and we people the real knows who's real and who's fake. So
Yeah,
what you're doing, man, like I said again, man, big ups to you, man. It's huge. It's gonna get bigger, I know for sure, man, because ain't too many people doing what you're doing and doing it for real. And then you got God behind you, man. So man,
100%, man.
it's only up from here, bro.
Everything I'm doing, man, is because Christ in my life. Like I didn't have any dreams of doing any of this. Like anybody, I didn't even choose a major until my junior year of college, so I didn't know what I wanted to do outside of basketball.
Right.
You know, so like just the fact that I'm writing books. I've written for the LA Times. I've had published articles in the LA Times. I never went to journalism school. You know, like it's like where like it's no limits to this thing. And that's what I'm
Absolutely.
trying to tell these guys when I go talk to them at the gym. It's like, look, you guys are in a special position, especially you college guys, where you could actually capitalize on your celebrity, on your social media celebrity, and
Right.
what you do at these schools, whether it be locally or nationally. Like start to think about, how you can leverage certain things, and make it in a structured way so that if you play basketball, if you don't, you're able to, these 4 years, you're able to take this information and take these contacts and take it with you further in your life. Because, you know, look at these, some of these people are getting 6-7 figure deals in college.
Absolutely.
You know,
That's
and they can't, but they don't understand at this age that that's not life-changing money. Right now, it's a huge bag for them.
Absolutely.
I remember having a couple thousand was a big bag in college.
Yeah.
But and they're getting 6-7 figure deals, but they just can't. My thing is, I don't want them getting comfortable with that. Like, you guys have a head start with this.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, a head start doesn't mean you still got to finish the race. Right. So that's my speech to them. But man, you're doing a great job too. I'm pretty sure you're talking to them about the same thing through your. I got one book. How many books you got now?
Got 3.
3 books, bro. Like, I'm struggling. Like, to be even telling me to write another one, I just can't wrap my mind around doing it. Like, it was just so much. So no, I got mad respect for you, Trav, man, what you got going on. And you think first, like, you know, that slogan in itself, it resonates with a lot of kids because they don't think first. They're very impulsive, as you know.
Absolutely.
You know, as we probably once were. You know,
Absolutely.
So it's like, you know, and then you're being very transparent too,
right,
in what you're doing. So like, you know, you're doing the work. That's my thing. When I see people, I'll shout out people all the time on my IG, and I'll put in hashtag doing the work. Like, they're really doing the work, and I love seeing it. I respect that.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, man, I definitely appreciate you joining the Crossover Talk Show. Spending time with me. Like I said, I know you got a busy schedule coming up, man. So thanks. And you on the East Coast, you about to go back to the West Coast, and you about to go. You about to be everywhere, man. So I definitely appreciate your time, man. I know bigger and better is coming, man. You're already doing big things now, man. So if y'all need some help, want to get educated about that pro life, how to be disciplined, the right way to go, contact my man Mike Creppy for Vindicated Sports.
Vindicated Sports.
Hey, that's the way to go. I appreciate you, bro.
No, anytime, Charlie.